Hey folks, Brian. Part of my weapons and equipment review, common goods, and I apologize up front because I'm going to go off on a couple tangents on this one because words mean things and objects have purpose, right? Um, so common goods, clothing. I highlight stuff here about noble stuff because everyone wants to dress up, right? A couple of spots here about the lunar heartlands. They have laws that govern how much you can buy and wear. The Israelians have a pride in their extravagant, beautiful clothing, right? There's a little block here on having clothing made with the various materials and the costs associated. And obviously, the fancier it is, the more it's going to cost. And they talk about, up to double time or as much as twice as much. You can do fancy stuff. You can dye your cloth. You can use exotic colors. Of course, it's going to double the cost or increase as much as 10 times. Lots of vagary there. And there's a list of clothing items, right? Aprons, belts, bodice, cloak, dress, girdle, harness, hat, headdress, helmet, leggings, mantle, sandals, tunics, veils, all this kind of stuff, right? And nothing here really jumped out at me. It was interesting. They have a little block again for winter cloak materials, antelope, bear, bison, etc., and the cost for those things. Jewelry, and this is an issue I had up front pretty much with RQG and the whole value of jewelry thing because I had been tapping into RQ2's treasure section, right, where they have a whole block on gems and jewelry, right? You roll randomly to get this value span of stuff, and you got cheap, you got expensive, you got gems, you got jewelry, which is gold with gems and that kind of stuff, right? And trying to take that and balance it into the generic sort of statements they make about a gold armband, 500 to 1,000. It gives you way too much wiggle room without trying to be, specifically I like to be, right? So I had actually tapped into Harnmaster, which is very, very specific on the size and value of gems and the weight and value of materials, gold, silver, ivory, um, um, jade, that kind of stuff, right? So I had built these tools with Excel on, randomly determined, here's a piece of jewelry. Well, how much does it cost? Well, what's it built with? And how many gems does it have? And how big are the gems? And all that kind of stuff, right? And is it ornate or not? And is it enameled or not? And it's like 3 or 4 different things you can do to increase the value of your jewelry. And yeah, I'm crazy that way. But jewelry here is just, they talk about cheap inlaid gems are commonly used. Expensive stones are reserved for spectacular pieces, right? Yeah. And they talk about how lots of jewelry is made with a gap, so you can fit any kind of your ring is going to fit a number of different people. Or your necklace usually has a clasp, but like the torque, right? Torque has a gap, so different sized people can wear it. These items. Well, it talks about stuff made out of bone and wood or fired clay. They're cheap, so that's half the cost. If you have a heavier piece of jewelry or it's a gem set or it's ornate, again, those modification words, right? You can price this twice as even higher, right? There's a little piece here about ooze jewelry, about how big it is. It may actually have encumbrance. Okay, and it goes through a whole slew of different kinds of jewelry. Right? You got anklets, armbands, buckles, bracelets, cloak clasps, earrings, fibula. And I used to remember what that was, but I don't remember now what it is. Necklaces, nose chains, pectorals, rings, torques, lots and lots of stuff with this huge span of, price, 50 to 100 lunars, 10 to 30 lunars. Here's one's just 60, 20 to 150. Here's one's just 750, 300 to 500, this huge span of stuff, right? That for me as a GM leaves way too much open because I guess I don't have enough imagination to just pull it out. I prefer this much, this much, this much, add it all together kind of stuff, right? Okay, cosmetics. Whale hunting, because cosmetics are based on oil. So in glamour, that perfume is a really big thing. Whale oil is a deal there, right? You got body paints. So what I want to bring up here though is about dyeing your hair, right? because there are a number of these different cosmetics that are specifically designed to dye hair, right? Henna is red, indigo is bluish to dark, grayish to dark blue, senna is for yellow, turmeric is for golden blonde, you know, that kind of stuff. And there's all kinds of different things about perfume and lipstick and that kind of stuff. Black for the eyes, you know, that kind of thing. Kohl, I guess it's called, yeah. Then a little piece on tattooing pigments and a little piece on woad that's often used to tattoos for protection. But they don't talk about other colors or other types for other spells. Just the one, woad for protection. Okay, tools. You know, all kinds of tools again. There's a list here. We talk about how most tools are bone, right? Stone, wood, or bone. Here we go. Usually made, right? But if it's bronze, that's gonna be 10 times as expensive. But we're in a bronze age. Why are we using stone tools? Okay, so fish hooks, hammers, knife, clasps, mallets, picks, uh, sewing roll, tools for writing, a whetstone, tools for doing different things, a flint spearhead, and all this kind of stuff here. Leather, right? Tough sole leather is twice as expensive as ordinary leather. Okay, I'll buy that because tough sole leather was used for armor, and it's like this thick. I've got a roll of it in my closet if you want to see it sometime. And then, we've got fine kid skin leather from any animal. Caught my attention. Any animal costs 3 times as much. That has to do with how you got to scrape that skin really, really thin to get it to be that way. Another thing I want to mention, rope, 15 meters. So that's your standard. Rope, 15 meters is the standard. Okay, instruments. I'm not a music kind of guy, so I don't really pay much attention to music. But obviously, music and playing and dancing is a big Grantham cultural kind of thing, right? Look at all kinds of instruments here. The bullroarer, which is popular among air cultists such as Orlanth or Stormbowl. Castanedas, used by dancers. Nose flute, primarily used for a courting instrument. Don't ask me. The Cathara, popular is rolling in royalty. The lyre, uh, 4 string is common in northern Sartar. A 6 string is for the rest of the country. There are 10 string lyres in the Grayslands. Some interesting kind of things they pull out here. Ocarina, maybe. The flute, popular with earth and fire, or cults associated with earth and fire runes. So they do pull some of it in, but it could be expanded on, I think. Okay, toys and games. Lots of pull toys, lots of dolls, board and cards, that kind of stuff, right? Food and drink. Again, a big list of different kinds of common sorts of foods. Vinter's breakfast, popular in Sartar's Naimi Valley. Flatbread, fried white and blood sausage, and eggs. Good to know. Again, some of that little culture kind of stuff, which is great. They have a block here on bee produce, giant and normal sized bees. Um, Trolls are renowned for bee stuff, apparently. They have a thing here on royal jelly, which is special for the queen bee, right? But if it's collected, right, it has many reputed therapeutic uses, but none listed. Okay. Okay, all kinds of food. Eel, flatbed, grain, grapes, grog, gruel. Grog's on the other side, sorry. Gumbo, jerky, and if I'm talking down, you don't get the volume. Sorry, just turned up. Then there's standard things like the midday meal, fry bread, spice roasted meats of some sort, fruits and vegetables. Six clacks, that kind of thing. Uh, jugged bowl of mutton jugged bowl. Not sure what that is, but it's slow cooked with herbs and spices. It's a staple in Dragon Pass during the winter. Good to know. Sausage and dragon leaves. That's common in South Sartar. The daily stew, common to inns, right? It's been whatever they got, meats and vegetables, etc. Real cheap. Okay, drinks. Standard stuff like barley ale, um, cider, juices, mead, wine. Lots of wines here listed, right? Um, Just mention here that a bowl of barley ale is a poor but common substitute for a whole meal. For juices, oranges and lemons are popular in the Holy Country. Uh, Clear wine, obviously the famous product of clear wine. Rice wine is popular among Lunars. Uh, Vinvale Red is the type of wine that's popular in Israelia, not common elsewhere. So prices will go up further away you go, right? Okay. Herbs and plants. And this was really cool because I really liked some of the things that came out from the GM's book on herbs and plants, right? Because you can use herbs and stuff to simulate spells, which I thought was at first I'm going, oh really? Like Hazia is not gives you an effect not unlike discorporation. That's a rune spell, and you're getting it from smoking a plant. Okay, but the more and more you get into it, that's really kind of cool, right? I'm actually using not a listed one, but I like this idea. I'm going to take it and use it here in my game with something else. They talk about seasonal potency. You need to have plant lore in order to find these things and know what they are, that kind of stuff, right? A couple things I wanted to point out. Black flower grants +10 to your hide skill. Cool. Bloodroot gives you 1d6 points of spirit screen. Oh, here's something interesting. Boned bind doubles the healing rate for broken bones, but we don't really describe broken bones. Is that a mangled limb? Or is that double hit points? Is it more than the hit points to your limb? I don't know. Maybe we should describe that somewhere. Bull's horn adds 1d6 strength for 1d8 hours. Burn root doubles the healing rate for burns and fire. Also, if you put double doses of salve on your skin, it acts as 3 points of armor against fire and heat. Good stuff. Dark foil glows brightly in the presence of chaos based upon the potency of the actual plant. Elohind, can heal some diseases. If you use it as a tea on the last clay day of the season, you can get a power gain check. Good. Stuff that gives you a game mechanic to use. I love it. That's what it should be, right? Emerald Moss deals 2d6 points of damage in 1d6 times 10 minutes. Fireweed, used as a tea, acts as a ritual, gives +50 to magic augmenting. Cool. We talked about Hazi already. Jenga's got healing effects. They give you some description of stuff there. Rain Moss adds +20 to your constitution rolls against brain fever when you're fighting it. Good to go. Here's something interesting. Shalana's Poppy. The drinker does not feel pain and is immune to incapacitation shock effects. Okay, what are incapacitation shock effects? So the blue book, incapacitation, so they can no longer fight and are in shock. What is shock? What does shock do? What are the effects? No idea. But you can relieve it with Shalana's Poppy. I guess that's one of those things, right? Okay. Here's one. Cerula's eyes gives you 1 level of Farsi. Good, good, good. Some things, Imprax. Good to go. Wildberry gives you it gives you Shimmer 1. Nice to know. Okay. Exotic raw materials. Yeah. Carapaces, feathers, furs, gold leaf, mineral pigments, all this kind of stuff that costs money, that can do things, but no game mechanics, but that's fine. Spider silk, right? 1 square meter, 100 plus lunars, highly prized and farmed only by the trolls around Cliffhome and Skyfall Lake, difficult to obtain. Is this regular size spiders or is this giant spiders? Because I had a thing from my brother's fancy trip game where we, back in the day, wild gaming kind of stuff. Let's build a male shirt knitted out of giant spider silk. Because giant spider silk is tough, right? How much does it protect? I forgot. I think we just made it like chainmail, the 5 points or whatever, or 3. I guess it was fancy trip. but it wore like padded, so it was really light. What are the effects? Giant spider silk. Okay, household goods, all kinds of stuff here, right? Baskets, glassware, rugs, trinkets, adventuring gear. This is going to be a bit because there's a lot of stuff here, right? Like I said, words mean things. Thankfully, it's the last one, and we're already at 15 minutes. Okay, adventuring gear. Things have a purpose. What is that purpose? Um, a YouTuber gaming buddy, there we go, of mine, Jason, was talking about he plays OSR kind of stuff because he don't get bogged down with mechanics. Complete opposite of me, right? And he was talking about why keep track of arrows? Every time you get them out and get in town, you get arrows. You're not going to shoot enough arrows during dungeon crawling that you're going to have to worry about counting your arrows. You're going to be able to cover them and that kind of stuff. Although I'm not sure how many you can actually recover based on some stuff I've seen with shooting arrows at plate. But that's foul play. Good to go. I'm more of count. It's what's the word? There's resource management. Used to be really big. Torches. How many torches you have? How long they last? How deep are you going? How long are you in the dungeon? That kind of stuff. It means something to the gameplay. Okay, adventuring gear. Antidotes. Good to go. You need those against certain things, right? Um, oh, lighting in dark places, right? I as a GM and sometimes as a player, I'll be out. If we're out adventuring in the forest, right, and it's nighttime, what are we using for light? Well, if we got a fire, that's fine. You know, in college, I was with the ROTC Army Rangers. I've been in the Marines for 20 years. Out in the woods at night is not really all that dark. Now you can get underneath canopy with trees where it is almost pitch black. And if you're doing a hike, you hold on to the strap of the pack of the guy in front of you. And if you lose it, you're in trouble until you run into him. I got a story about that sometime. But anyway, if you're not, in dense foliage, the sky gives you some light. It's amazing how much you can really see at night and how far light travels. Even the tip of a cigarette can be seen from quite a ways away, that kind of stuff, right? So is it really that important to have light at night? Well, outside, probably not. If the moon is out and it's fall, holy cow, can you see? But anyway, lighting in the dark. It's like you're going cave crawling, right? Following some crushed kids into their tunnels, right? You need like this pitch black down there. Got that. Okay, candles. I remember seeing something when I was a kid, or maybe not, about Romans building candles that were different colors. And so as it burned down, each color was an hour worth of burn for the candle, right? So, you got an 8-inch candle, burns for 8 hours kind of thing. So, you can track time at night. Went to look for something like that just a few minutes ago, couldn't find anything. But And while this is a tallow candle, not a beeswax candle, and yes, they burn differently, but you got to use something for an example, right? So a beeswax candle, 1 inch in diameter, takes 3 hours to burn down 1 inch. So if you've got a candle in your house that's 6 inches long, that's 18 hours going to burn all night. And that way you've got a fire, got some fire in the morning to light the fire back up if it went out, right? So it's amazing how long some of the stuff lasts. Okay, fire starting. Have you ever tried to start a fire with flint and tinder? Flint and tinder, right? Steel and flint. It ain't easy, and you've got to have specially prepared tinder to actually try and catch those sparks and make a little fire, right? But for the fire start here, they use a bow drill. That makes sense to me. But still, a bow drill takes time to start a fire. Okay. Um, Lamps. Okay, they talk about bullseye lamps somewhere in here where it's got a shade and got one end you can flip up so all the light's coming out like a spotlight kind of thing. And did they have those in the Bronze Age? I don't think so. I've done some research on Bronze Age lamps, but most of the stuff they get are really really early Bronze Age, right? Where it's just a bowl where one end is tipped up for a wick to sit in, right? Then they start getting fancy, they start folding edge up, so you actually got two um, spouts, if you will. Usually what we think of is like a little teapot kind of thing, right? Where you pour oil in the top, it's got a body that holds oil, and there's a spout sticking up. In fact, I've got one upstairs that's shaped like a dragon, so the wick comes out of the dragon's mouth. That's kind of what we think of, I think, when we talk about lamps in Glorantha, that kind of lamp. Okay. Okay, size of area illuminated depends on the size and style of the lamp. I can see style because you can have multi-point lamps, right? Got table lamps that got four spouts, right? So that gives you a greater area. But size, I don't think the size really matters as far as how big of an area, because you've got a wick. How much light is a wick going to give off? Is it going to give off more if you stick it out more? To a certain point, but you got to start smoke and all kinds of weird stuff, right? So only so much, right? But um, how much oil do these things hold, and how long does oil burn for? Well, done some research, and modern oils, right, which is obviously not olive oil or even whale fat for that matter, right? Um, half of an ounce will burn for an hour. Now they do have up here oil lamp, oil used in a lamp, usually olive. Da, 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 da. 1/4 of an encumbrance lasts for 1 hour. 1/4 of an encumbrance, but a half of an ounce is not a fourth of an encumbrance. So if they're talking about the actual rest of the oil, but again, if you're talking about say we do double, it's half as efficient. 1 ounce of oil. How big is your little clay pot holding an ounce of oil, right? So some of this is not making sense to me. And again, how much oil then does your lamp hold? Well, if you look at Solara here, that lamp's about palm size, and I've seen a lot of Hellenic um, lamps that are that sort of thing. And based upon their measurements, I'd estimate they hold about 3 ounces. But still, at half an ounce an hour, three ounces. Well, even with an ounce an hour, 3 ounces, that's 3 hours of burning. That's a lot of time. So, but how much oil are you carrying? Where is it? What happens if it breaks? That kind of stuff you can play with. Okay, I got some packs in here. There's a climber's pack, a soldier's pack, poisons of various types, a rain catcher, rations. Okay, here's another thing. Rations, right? Food. You've got fighting rations, you've got garrison rations, you've got short rations. Um, what's the effect? What happens if you're stuck eating flour mixed with chalk and dirt? Scraps of meat boiled in a thin stew for flavor. Does that affect your statistics, your strength, your constitution? Does it just affect your ability to do stuff? Is your fighting skills going down by 5%, 10% per day that you're on this weak stuff that's not keeping you up to date? Because obviously it's much less nutrition than fighting rations or even garrison rations for that matter. So what's the mechanic? What's the game effect for eating improperly? Don't know. Surgery kit. Why do we need to do surgery? What does having a surgery kit do? Does it add to your first aid skill? Is it necessary for severed or maimed limbs? Doesn't say. Um, in my game, because we all have healing rate, and if there's a game mechanic, there needs to be a purpose for it, right? But if one person in the party's got heal one, you can eventually heal up everybody because it just takes time and magic points, right? Don't need first aid, don't need healing rate, right? So what I've done is I don't allow stacking. So if you only have heal one, you're going to heal one hit point in each location of all the wounds you've taken. Sorry. Now do first aid. If you do first aid on each location, you can get up to, well, you've created 3 plus a D3, but a D3 worth of hit points. There's a couple of hit points there, right? Now you got to wait a week, rest. You have to rest a week, to start healing. You get 1 point per location resting, right? So, you know, game mechanic. There's a reason. Why is the reason? What is the reason? How does it work? Kind of stuff is my thing. So surgery kit. I would say you would need a surgery kit for a mangled limb in order to do first aid on a mangled limb, other than stop bleeding, because regular bandages can stop bleeding, right? So you know, oh, I do allow um, stacking types of healing, right? Like I mentioned, the heal, the spirit magic heal spell, first aid, and you can do heal wound, the rune magic spell on top of that, right? So that's what my players end up doing. They'll do the heal 2 or 3 on each other as things are going along, but once the fight's over, okay, who really needs to get healed? Get the heal wound out. Let's go burn the magic points. Uh, and Noble's tent. A couple things here about the contents of your Noble's tent can add to bargain, charm, and orate. There you go. Perfect. 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 Item with description and a game effect. Blade Venom. I was really hoping they would come out Blade Venom because I know in the old RQ2 stuff, that was the thing that was out there. The bad guys were always using Blade Venom. Oh. Oh, torches. How long does a torch last? They're a fifth of an encumbrance. So a torch is less encumbering than a, a single thing of lamp oil. That interesting. How much oil are they thinking about when they talk about this versus, a torch? It's a wicker torch, right? But still, it's a torch. It's lightweight, but it's big, right? Uh, how long does it last? Generally, I found torches seem to last about an hour, so that's the standard I go for. An hour for torches, an hour for an ounce of oil. How far are you going underground? How long are you going to be down there? How much oil and how many torches do you have? To me, it matters. Happy gaming.